Well, hello everyone. We want to welcome you today to the GEO Forum. And at this moment, we're going to be discussing Engage Nova Scotia. And so today we're very fortunate to have Erin Wynn with us, who is the Director of Quality of Life at Engage Nova Scotia. And I'm going to get her to introduce herself in a moment, but I do have some housekeeping items I need to cover first. So before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone we're in a hybrid event here. So there are a number of people online and some people in person. Via the link. And so we'll be drawing for a fabulous prize during this session. It won't be announced till the end of the day, but we are drawing for a fabulous prize. And so for those that are attending virtually, there will be a link in your chat, and you can go to that. And for those who are here in the session, there on each table, there's a QR code, so please do take a picture of that, and then you can enter in that as well. And we also want your feedback on today as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin, who can tell us a bit more about who she is and what she does.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone, and everybody in the room, everyone joining online. As Laurel just mentioned, my name is Erin, and I'm the Director of the Quality of Life Initiative at Engage Nova Scotia. So today, I will be walking you through our work, what the quality of life movement is, what our research is, how it intersects with Nova Scotia, and all of the important work of digital inclusion in quality of life. We worked quite closely with GEONS this past year to create additional metrics and stats on digital inclusion that we'll be putting in our landmark population study that's coming out this coming year. There will be some space at the end for Q&A, but if any questions come up in between, feel free to put your hand up for those in the room or for those online. Someone is watching the chat, I believe, and they'll be able to voice your questions for you. Great. So Engage Nova Scotia. We are an independent nonprofit. We work with every level of government. So federally, we're working with groups across Canada who are really interested in putting well-being at the center of policy decisions, really advocating on metrics of quality of life and creating frameworks around quality of life that we can then assess the movements we're making as governments, as programs, as policies from those points of views. Provincially, we work with a really excellent interdepartmental committee who helps us understand what kind of data government needs. This morning in the plenary, it came up that to make good decisions, programs, approaches to digital inclusion, we really need that solid database. So that's what we're creating for the province of Nova Scotia. We're making the biggest survey of its kind in North America, and we are pretty darn sure the world. So it's a really large quantitative population study I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. The vision that we have is a more vibrant, inclusive, equitable, and resilient Nova Scotia, and our mission is to change the approach of improving quality of life for everyone. And I wanted to take a quick moment to talk about resilience in the work that we do and in quality of life and digital inclusion. Something that feels very important about the work is that our data lets us look into all the demographic and geographic communities in our province. And the areas that we see where we know people are struggling, we can put those into the contexts of, you know, what groups they belong to, where they're living, differences across different social structures. But we can also see these really incredible flourishing moments all over our province, which many of you are probably very familiar with or aware of. There are people really thriving here, and it's not exclusive to economic class or to income level. So we really want to be able to pinpoint, like, what's going right? How can we replicate it? And identify that the keys to our resilience and our strength are already here. We're just trying to name them and assign data to them so that we can amplify that a bit more and have a real strength-based approach. So the Nova Scotia Quality of Life Survey. The method we use for our survey is that every residential address in Nova Scotia will receive 2 invitations, an initial invitation and a reminder. Those will come via mail, so they're going to 433,000 households, which is so exciting as a data nerd. That feels unprecedented to be able to do that. We also have this excellent community outreach team. One of our leads, Camila, is at our table. You can go chat to her. She's wonderful, and there is swag that you can pick up if you are interested. But the community outreach team and our community partners work on the ground for folks that may not have a residential address, for people that might be underrepresented, marginalized, or have access abilities or access needs for the survey. They're really working to make sure that folks who face barriers can still put their data in, and that their story impacts how we view the overall Nova Scotia quality of life. And additionally, we'll be doing broad media engagement and amplification, so you'll be seeing and hearing us in news, radio, and online. These are what the postcards will look like. Many of you will receive them, ideally all of you. And the intended outcomes of this survey. So the reason we are doing this is because the design of the survey allows us to see what's going on with individuals in Nova Scotia, but then the data set gets really interesting when you look at communities and neighborhoods. And the communities and neighborhoods we're looking at are both geographic, so you can go in and say, what's life like in this particular hamlet on the south shore of Nova Scotia? And you can say, what's life like for women of color from 19 to 30 in Pictou County? So the ability to create these specialized reports is really important for our municipalities, for our province, for regional economic data. And it also, again, allows us to both identify challenges that are happening in those communities, but also the unique strengths of those communities. We work with the Canadian Index of Wellbeing, who have identified the 8 domains of well-being. So this work comes from an academic background with government and community input and interviews with people all across Canada. The domains of well-being that have been identified and that our survey is rooted in are community vitality, democratic engagement, education, environment, health and healthy populations, leisure and culture, living standards, and time use. And again, each of these very interesting in its own right. Where it gets super fun is when you look at how they interact with each other, and where you look at how they interact with demographic and geographic information. An example that I like to pull up, because time use is kind of the least loved of these. It's the one that people get the least excited about. But if you are a young working family, your time use is going to impact your ability to feel like you belong in your community. It's going to impact your ability to feel like you can be democratically engaged. And all of these other things really intersect with one another. Which brings me to digital inclusion and quality of life. So a question for those in the room and for those online, again, your comments can be read out in the room. What are some ways you see digital inclusion intersecting with these domains of well-being? Where can you see the impact or the connection between those? And I'll just give a moment for folks in the room to respond, or for folks online.
Where you can work and live.
Excellent, yeah, 100%. And you know, we are an urban, rural, we have these big mixes, and the ability to actually work in a rural place in work that is specifically online becomes, you know, much more enhanced with digital inclusion. Excellent input. Anyone else?
Living standards, I'm kind of thinking about being aware of all the programs that may be available for people. If you don't have access to the internet, you may not know those programs exist.
100%. That's going to come up in the literature review. That's out of the global studies we've done on digital inclusion and quality of life. Understanding government programs and how to navigate them is one of the biggest increasers of digital inclusion on quality of life.
I don't know which one this fits into. Definitely time use and the idea of like families with young children, me. Mm-hmm. One, well-being, it's so silly, but being able to sign my kid up for PD day camps and summer camps and March break camps so that their care is looked after all year round. Like if I see that just being able to do that online, but then seeing that there's a delay between the access to it online versus being able to do it in person or on the phone. Online's first, so if you don't have that, then you're screwed, potentially, depending on the place. Right. But yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I know we're saying we don't know which one that fits into. It fits into so many. Yeah, it's time use, it's education, it's connection to community. It's the feeling of stress of having to care for young children and know where they're going during those times. Those are really connected to all of these. So that's a really great one. Is there anything coming in online? I just want to check with our digital correspondent here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, I can.
Excellent. Lindsay says all of them.
And,
Ding, ding,
and
ding.
I do have a question just from Josie Robinson. She wants to know, will the distribution of these the postcards be distributed by be disturbed by the Canada Post strike?
That's a great question. Yes, they will be. So we are working. We have all of our materials ready to run, ready to operate. We are currently paused while the strike is underway until the labor action concludes and there's a deal on the table. So we are ready to rumble. We are slightly delayed. I'm going to make a pitch for you to sign up for our newsletter at the end of this session, and we will be sending out our broad media announcements when we are ready to be in the field. And we'll be in the field for about 2 months. So you'll also have the possibility of getting your postcard and then getting a bunch of media reminders, ideally. So you folks are right on the money. There have been a couple large-scale global studies on digital inclusion and quality of life. I chose just a few of the outcomes that we see. Reduction in social isolation through internet and IT-enabled contact with friends and family. Active involvement in an increasingly computerized healthcare system. That came up in the plenary this morning as well. Service users really are integrating more and more of their government programs and healthcare programs through digital use. Sustained independence, so people being able to engage in what they care about longer and across a broader lifespan. Enhanced cognitive skills. Navigation of government supports and services, as mentioned, achievement of individual goals, rural inclusion and upskilling, and active participation in governance. So knowing what's going on in the communities you live in the province you live in the country you live in, and being able to feel like you have an active stake and part in it. So with that said, we have worked with Matt and Kara here at GEO Nova Scotia to look at, we did this survey first in 2019. We went to 100,000 households. We had a 16% response rate, which was incredibly encouraging. We were told by some pollsters and some folks who do this work that we would expect a 2% to 5%. So we're really, really pleased and excited about that and really hopeful for what it means for this upcoming survey. What we've changed since 2019, we've added and enhanced areas around housing insecurity, affordability, intimate partner violence, family physicians, upgrading, buying local. The things that feel particularly relevant today are the questions added on digital inclusion, sources of opinions and information, how media literate and digitally literate are folks as well in sorting their information, or where are they getting it? Confidence in results of elections, hybrid work environments, and all of these complemented and in intersection with the demographic questions. So we've got really enhanced understanding of the people who are answering this survey. These are the 4 questions that GEO provided to us. Each of these questions,
And I want to just say, we're so excited that you've added these. It will enhance what we do and help inform what we do and how to move forward with this very important topic.
100%. And I was so excited for the shout out this morning in the plenary about, we need data, we need data, we need data. And Matt being like, we're getting data, it's coming. The ability to send these questions to 433,000 households is really incredible. So these were taken from multiple national surveys with groups that GEO has worked with and are identified as sort of the best way to capture digital inclusion and access. So the first one is I have reliable access to the internet in my home. So infrastructure, is this something you even can do? I can afford both internet service and the devices I need to be online at home. This is the economic trade-off, the device access, and then the mobile broadband question. So you can get online, but do you have the device to use that internet access? I feel confident using the internet to access the information and services I need safely. So this assesses digital literacy and comfort navigating digital environments. And then finally, I have someone I can turn to for help if I run into problems using digital technology. So again, none of this exists in isolation. I loved one of the panelists this morning said it's like hygiene. You have to stay on top of how you're using digital tools, and you have to be kind of always in conversation with them. You also have to be in conversation with your community, with other generations, with other demographics, in understanding how to use these networks. And again, this speaks to the support network and the community aspect of this. So I wanted to open it up to the room for anything that comes up for you folks around these questions. And Laurel, if there's anything we wanted to cover from a GEO point of view as well.
No, I don't think I had any questions. I'll put it out to the floor.
Excellent. And that QR code on there is for our website. Again, I'm going to give a shout out to going online and signing up for our newsletter. We will let you know all of the details about how to help us in our promotion of our survey.
All right, I'm like the first person out of potluck. I will always take the plate and get her started.
You're very needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
First off, hi. For those who don't know me, none of you do except for Claire. I'm Steph Webb. I work for cybersecurity and digital solutions for the human-centered service design team, and I work in user research. So I am so stoked on this. Just the importance of metrics and just like, what do we know? And the assumptions that are probably rife right now about who's in Nova Scotia, what is it like to live here. So seeing this project being run by you folks is so exciting, and I am such a nerd for this. And I guess sort of what comes top of mind, or when you first started talking about this, was like that engagement with the questions and getting people to take the time to fill this out. And for me, it seems like such a huge leap of faith. And I wonder if that's actually a strength that you guys have coming into this project, is that you aren't someone like me working for a department, but you are Engage Nova Scotia. And I suppose I'm fascinated by this question of trust, because that was something we were seeing coming up again and again today, was that engagement and that, like, I don't want to do this. And well, why? Part of it was like, I'm scared I'm going to break it, but also I don't trust what will happen next. I don't know. And so with this project, this huge undertaking, what are the considerations that you guys have in order to build that trust for people to share this personal information about what it's like for them to live here?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question and that insight. And it's a really great question. I think we all know that we're living in a time of decreased trust in institutions, decreased trust in data sharing, in providing unknown folks with access to these really somewhat intimate questions, right? Questions about what it means to live in the place you live in. How we are approaching that, I mean, first we work very closely with government partners at every level, and we are independent, and I think that is a real strength that we have, that we hold that data. We only share the data in explicit data sharing agreements with academic and government partners, so that feels like a building of trust. We've developed really solid security features and have figured out ways to communicate them. And then the core of our trust building is that we don't do anything alone. So we work with communities and organizations and partners who are already on the ground all across Nova Scotia, both here in HRM, but also in the really rural spots where they have those personal relationships, service delivery approaches, and they can say, we know this organization and we believe in them, and we believe that your data will help Nova Scotia become stronger. So the real approach we use is sort of one of vicarious trust. It's that we build relationships with people who have relationships on the ground. And it's this really beautiful collaboration and web of how we share that trust and information. And then there's also some structural pieces around creating accessibility points for people to take the survey, being really clear about what it means to share your data with us, and making sure that everyone that participates understands the consent process, understands that they can withdraw, and really has like a core ethical center to how we do the work. We also, again, Camila's in the room, as is our CEO, Danny Graham, so I'll just give a shout out to them to chat with them if you have any further questions as well. And for those of you online, you can always contact us at the emails. So thanks, Steph, so much for that question, and I look forward to connecting further. I think we have... Yeah, I think we have a lot of nerding out to do, so great. And I see another question over here.
Yeah, so my question that I have this time is regarding how people access the internet. So we've discussed a lot about, do you have access to the internet? But as a fellow data nerd, welcome, hello, we should all chat. Yeah, my question mainly is of interest to me is, how do people access the internet? And in particular, what effect has the relatively recent development of satellite internet access being available at a consumer level, what effect has that had? So now you don't have to have physical cables run all the way into whatever rural community you're in. You can have it, beamed down from space. So that obviously has a massive dramatic effect on availability and access. So I'd love to hear what you may have found out already about that.
Yeah, oh, perfect. We're at 5 minutes. I'll give a shot at it, and then Laurel, if you have anything to add from the GEO side on that. This is the first, we have asked questions about affordability and around, do you have internet before? But this is the first time we're asking these specific questions. So we don't yet have the data on it. I did hear Matt in this previous session say, through Schools Plus, they've signed up almost 300 families for internet using some of these other services to get to these more rural, less accessible spaces. So the dream that I have with this data is that it can also be in conversation with some of those pieces of structural data. If we know where people have internet and where they don't, we can also cross-reference that with what are the service areas that are hit by these specific companies and not hit by others. So there's the possibility to unlock that on the other side of the survey, but we don't actually have data on it right now from an Engage perspective. I'm not sure if GEO would have additional information. And thank you for the question.
And not from a data point of view, but I do know we have been working on the MiFi units as part of the solution to that. There are areas of the province where there is satellite coverage, but individuals might not be able to afford it. So there's the affordability piece as well. So this is really important information for us to have and talk about what is covered in the province and what isn't covered in the province. Really great question.
Great. Laurel, could you just explain what MiFi is really quickly before we move to the next question?
Well, it's kind of having a portable internet access for you. So it's going through, I believe, cellular lines instead of the other lines. So it gives a portability to people. And as mentioned in the last session, there was a family in a trailer who had lost their home. And so it gave them an ability to actually access the internet. So this was technology that was in the United States, was brought to Canada, and we've been working on developing it. So it's really a Nova Scotia thing that hopefully will impact the whole country and help individuals who aren't able to access the internet any other way.
I saw a question here.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about surveys and responding and who's likely to respond and things like that. And, I come out of a marketing background originally, and one of our primary demographics was highly unlikely to fill out a survey. So what I'm wondering about is pre-information on respondents, so you can see how many people responded from the African Nova Scotian community compared to how many people we believe are living in that community or something like that. So we can see, is that an element of what you're looking at as well too, pre-information?
Yeah, we haven't used the term pre-information, but we are doing weekly assessments during the 2 months that the survey is in the field on who's answering from where. So we're not looking at the entirety of their data, but we're looking at who is answering, where they're coming from, and then if we need to do increased on-the-ground community engagement in those areas. We have our data from 2019 as well, which allowed us to kind of see, okay, these are the groups that actually are very good at responding to surveys, have the time, have the energy, are familiar and comfortable with the process. And then here are groups that needed more support or that we actually couldn't access in 2019. So that's where our specific community outreach strategy and leads have come in. But I would love to talk to you more too. I will be around after the session. Thank you. And we have time for one more right over here.
Great. Yeah, Frank McKinnon and Davis Peer, great presentation, exciting data set forthcoming. Would love to know, how to access that data when it does come in, and obviously be a little bit of work to kind of curate that. But will it be made openly available to groups? Will you be able to query it openly? Yeah, just kind of curious.
Great question, and thanks for that, Frank. We will have We have right now a really exciting well-being map that you can look at with the 2019 data. It's on our website. So you can go on, you can search your community, and you can sort of zoom in and break down the questions and how they were answered. That map is broadly accessible. It's available to anyone in Nova Scotia, with the small caveat that it's like highly anonymized, because we don't want people to be able to see each other's data in those communities. For partners that are doing more concentrated academic, government, and policy level work, we have data sharing agreements and legal agreements to protect the confidentiality and the safety of our data. But we're really interested in collaborating. We want this data to be put into use, and we want this data to be in the hands of people who are advocating for well-being in Nova Scotia and beyond. So it sounds like we'll be in touch as well. It's been a great networking session. So thanks, Frank. Oh yes, come to the booth. Camila has the map up and running on our screen at our booth, so you can go in, click around the map, and see what's going on with our 2019 data, and get excited together about our upcoming data in the year ahead. And I believe we are very at time. So thank you so much today for being with us today.
Yes, I want to thank our guest, Erin, today. Thank you so much for bringing this really important information. And I'm actually excited to get that postcard in the mail when it starts again. And I want to thank the attendees in person and those that are here virtually as well. Really great engagement. Really, really enjoyed that. And also a reminder of the door prize. If you've attended in person, look at the QR codes, upload that. If you're virtual, you're already in it. It won't be announced till the end of the day. And the prize is a $250 gift card to Orchard, Canada's largest refurbisher of mobile devices. So thank you, everyone. Wonderful.